There we are. And we are live. And we've already got, sorry, you're going to see my finger pop up there, Kyle, because I'm doing all of this on my phone. I'm not high tech. We have Spooky Noodles, aka Nick, that's already in here, saying another live. Say what? He was here last night for our live show. Noodles, aka Nick, that's already in here, saying another. Oh, I can hear myself. Am I echoing?
No, that was my phone. I'm so sorry. I was trying to stop it, but it's not. My phone was on.
That's too funny. I did the same thing. Make sure that we're all live and working. All right. So today we have Kyle Winkler, who just released your debut horror novel, correct?
Yes, that's exactly correct.
And it's called The Nothing That Is. And I actually just finished it over the last couple of days. I buddy read it with Linda. And but Kyle has some information because he's got other things out there. He's got a really cool background. So we're going to let Kyle introduce himself. I'm sorry, Linda. I'm blocking you out. Everyone knows who you are. You don't need to introduce yourself. Go ahead, Kyle. Tell us more about you.
Hello, YouTubers. I've always wanted to say that. I've always watched people say that, but now
you
I can
should start a channel.
I know. I don't know. I couldn't get into that. It'd take too much time. Hello, my name is Kyle Winkler, and I am a writer and a teacher. I live in Northeast Ohio. What else should I say? I just was telling you I have a cat. No, I have a family. I have a wife and 2 kids, and I've been writing for a long time. But this novella, this one, which my author copies are still coming. That's how long it takes. I still got the proof copy.
You're kidding.
Yeah, well, that's just whatever. I'm not going to complain about it. It's fine. Hello, Richard.
I was going to say, I was assuming these people are yours.
Yeah. Richard's a good online friend. We've met online, and he's been a lifesaver. And he hosted my reading on Friday, so he's pretty wonderful.
And he also left a review. I'm sure he did, because I think I read his review this morning.
He did, and he got really enthusiastic, and I really like that. So I'm all for that. Yes, this is the first book that I put out. I have other things that I've written. Of course, I have short stories, which you can find on my website, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, maybe. And but this is the first book, and it was a novella because I think novellas are good to self-release. Hello, Lovisa.
I love that name. I was going to say that's beautiful.
She's a former student of mine.
Aww.
Yeah. Lovisa's wonderful. She's Swedish. So.
Oh, you can tell she's got a beautiful name. So.
Yeah. But novellas are just, I think, ripe for horror. They're a great genre for horror. They're a great length for self-release, and so they fit the length. They fit the genre style. They fit the price point for a lot of people, and so I didn't really want to, I didn't want to overdo it. I just wanted to put something out. So yeah, but I have all these other books, longer novels that I either have been working or have written and are editing, and my agent and I have been putting these things together. So it's a process. But it's fun. It was really fun, and I really enjoyed it. And I don't know what else. I feel like I'm leaving other important things out. But I think everything you need to know about me is that I teach writing. I've been writing for a long time, and I'm going to do it whether I end up putting out another book or not. So, but there you go.
I would say that, and I don't want to go too far into spoilers, but I will say, first I want to say hi to Carla too. I'll say hi to Lovisa, Richard. Lewis is in here. Allison just popped in. Hello, everyone.
Allison's a good friend too. She's a wonderful poet.
Well, thank you guys for all coming. I love this because everyone gets to come and support, and then it means other people can come in and ask questions. Although if they know you very well, they probably won't. They'll probably already know everything. But no, I will say, sorry, go ahead.
No, they won't. I got asked questions on Friday, and I just sort of I've told myself I'm going to keep it really trim. I'm not going to go crazy. So
go crazy if you want to. Go ahead. That's what it's all about. This is all about promoting you. This is like the spotlight's on you, Kyle. This is your time to shine.
Don't tell me things like that. That's not good.
We'll make your head blow up. I will say you can tell your history or your background with writing because I love those weird, mind-bending, crazy reads. But usually I can always find a way to wrap my mind around them, or I figure them out, or something's a little predictable in it and I catch up quite quickly. But this one left me staring at the white pages at the end. And I say that, but I've got it on my Kindle. But my mind is still just spinning, and I don't want to give any spoilers away. So I'm not going to go too far into anything or ask you any questions that are going to go too far into it, because we don't want to give, because it just released on the 19th, correct?
The 19th, yeah, last Monday. Yeah.
Yes. So I don't want to give too many, because I want to give a chance for people to be able to read this, and I will end up recording a video and put up more of my thoughts in detail in my video and stuff.
Yeah, great.
But I don't want to go too far into that, but I am so glad I had Linda on my side, that had Buddy read it with me, so we could wrap our minds around it together. But I don't think I've ever come across a read that had me that stumped at the end and questioning if I was understanding things correctly. And that shows that there is talent, because a lot of times the authors will end up not leaving that cliffhanger, or they'll end up saying something that ends up being predictable, and you can kind of catch up and you know what's going on, and then there's no real twist to the story. But this one was a whole different world. I tell you guys, this one will mess you up. When it says that it's Lovecraftian, cosmetic. I keep saying cosmetic, but I'm trying to say cosmic.
I love that. Cosmetic horror. That's a genre ripe for.
Oh, somebody's got to write that right now. But that cosmic horror, my goodness, my brain is still spinning. Your next book, cosmetic.
That's horror. Good. I'm glad though. I'm glad that that's the way you feel. I mean, of course, there are some people who've read it, who've told me their reviews are just personal, communication, like, hey, what's going on at the end, or I really love the ending, or I wanted more, or I haven't heard anybody say that they hated it. I mean, they can if they want. It doesn't bother me. But I felt like the book required, and this might be part of the genre of cosmic horror, that it doesn't, having a neat ending seems sort of contradictory to the whole point of the genre. Does that make sense, I guess?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I know Linda here, she's actually quite new to horror. So I've been slowly bringing her over to the dark side. So something like this. Now, I'm going to say that this is probably not like a first timers. If you have never dipped your toes into horror before and you're looking for something and you dip your toes into this one, this is not a novella to start with, because you are going to be just mind messed.
Buy it though. Still buy it. Buy it, put it on your shelf, read some other things, and then
get it on your shelf.
Yeah, that's right.
Get it on your shelf. Get yourself, some other stuff, dabble in, start light, and then when you become that, I don't want to say horror professional, because I'm not even a horror professional, then go ahead and pick it up.
Just 2 or 3 books and then pick it up.
Yeah, 2 or 3. Perfect. I love it.
Get yourself into it, because I know this is not something, if I pick this up not having any idea of what like cosmic horror was, or Lovecraftian, or mind-bending psychological stuff is, you probably would have me even more stumped. But I'll have to talk to you more about it.
Can I tell? Do you mind if can we tell people like a capsule summary of the book? That way,
absolutely. That's one of my next questions. So you're jumping in perfect.
Okay, so for people who haven't read the book, or don't have it, or haven't read the synopsis, the plot basically is, it takes place in 1986. It's a first-person narrative. So the narrator is named Cade McCall, and he's an assistant manager of a catering company in Southwest Indiana. And one day he comes into work very, very early, and there's a message on the answering machine at work, and it's kind of garbled, and he really can't understand what it is. But basically, through drips and drabs, he finds out that it is this client, a very strange client, who wants his company to do a catering gig for him. And he's going to pay a really crazy amount of money, which ends up being around like $11,000, which back then is a lot. And also for a catering gig, if you don't know, is just an insane amount of money, like $1,000 a head. And of course he has to do it, but he does it on the fly. He doesn't do it through official channels. He does it for himself because he wants to leave, because his boss is, can we curse?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Because his boss is an asshole. And he wants to, you're Canadians. I don't know how nice I should be. So I don't want to offend anybody.
There's a
I'm
reason why
kidding.
my
I
channel
know.
is 18 plus.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so so his boss is an asshole, and so he wants to take the money and get out from underneath this company and this guy and start his own thing. But it turns out that this client who names himself or asks Cade to name him, and Cade names him through a series of things I won't give away because it's kind of funny. Mr. Dinosaur. It ends up being pretty much the end of everything for him in some sense. And so the book is about it's the unraveling really of what's going on. I don't think there's nothing spoilery in that. No. It's cosmic horror. And what I was going to say was that, with a lot of cosmic horror, whether it's, I'd say a good example would be The Color from Outer Space or The Color from Space, whichever, I forget which title they went with, the new one with Nicolas Cage, which is it's a Lovecraft story that they made into this movie, or say Annihilation is another one I think a lot of people think about. There's nothing, no optimism in it. Ross, what's up?
Hey, Ross. Yeah. Glad that you're here. We're doing something early enough so he can actually jump in and take part.
That's awesome. Ross says, I've communicated with Ross, and he's been very, very, another really generous, nice person in the horror community. And
he's a soft, I adore that guy, and he's also a really great horror author as well. So
yeah, I say this, and I don't mean to, like, Steve Stredd was sort of like, you're giving me too much credit. And I was like, no, I really think like everybody really does a lot for each other. And
Josh and Marcella.
Josh
as well.
too, same thing. Like it's one of these things where it's like, it's really funny because it's like I'm kind of in awe of a lot of these people who are in here, and I don't know if it sounds corny to say that I look up to them because it's like they've been in the game for a while, and I'm just like I'm a newbie, I'm a nobody, I'm a baby, I'm still in diapers, and so it's like
I'm like high key fangirling over all of these authors all the time, so I hear exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, no, they're cool. I'm so glad to I don't know, that they even recognize you is a really fun thing. So, but anyway, so that's pretty much cosmic in that sense. That there's just the unraveling. I like that idea of it, and that there's nothing really optimistic going to be coming out of that. So it's about how you're going to deal with these characters. It's I thought of something last night, like in a weird way. Titanic, the movie, the James Cameron movie, is sort of like, I'm not going to say cosmic horror, but its structure is the same, right? You go into it, you know exactly what's going to happen, right? You know that everybody on this ship, for one reason or another, well, I mean, the exception of, why am I blanking on her name?
Rose,
yeah. The actress, I forget her name. I'm just watching her in Mayor of Easttown. She's wonderful in there. But you know that, she'll probably live, but everybody else is toast, right? But it's like how you get there, where's the tension going to come from when they get onto the ship before it sinks into the North Atlantic? That's the interesting thing. And I think that cosmic horror does that. Sometimes, there might be people who slip away, but I feel like there's always going to be a stain on them in some way. And then that's always interesting too. Like, what's that like?
Oh, absolutely. And what I love about horror is there's so many different subgenres within horror. There's something new to discover all the time. And cosmic horror is something that I'm slowly starting to see more and more and more of, and to fall more into, which is really interesting. Josh says he's a newbie as well, brother. Got to start somewhere.
I know. It's just the thing is everybody's so incredibly supportive. It's Kate Winslet. Thank you,
yes.
Lewis. That's right. Kate Winslet. Why?
That would have went right over my head too.
I'm like this close to 40, and for some reason it's like I'm already like my mental capacities are already. So I'm like, that's probably why I got to get these books out now, because it's like it's not going to happen if I don't do it.
While they're in your head, while they're fresh in your mind, get them out.
I know, for sure.
That kind of leads into my next question. Where did the idea for this story come from? I know at the end of the novella, you kind of give a little hint of what you were doing when you came across the story, and a little moment that you had with a spider. And I thought, that is so cool. That's so different. But we might as well share that with everybody as well, because I don't think that's spoilery either, where the idea
No, it's not
from.
spoilery. No, it was, and I remember tweeting about it at the time. Thank you, Josh. That's fantastic. I appreciate that. I'm telling you right now, my goal really is just to break even. And when I do, the money I get from this, I'm just going to turn around and put into, I guess I'll just announce this right now, as I'm kind of writing a sequel-ish type book.
Okay.
To this. So if people who've read the book, if you've not read the book, and let's not spoil this, Nichi and Linda, for people who haven't, but there's a character in the book called Tone Bone, and
Yes.
who is a biker, and I'm the next novella I'm writing follows that character. What happened to them.
That was one of my favorite characters, but I was like, I wanted to know more about the character.
So yeah. So anyway, so that's what I'm working on, and I'm just going to take all that money and put it into that pretty much. So, yeah, no nifty things, no new shirts, no new anything for me, just more novellas. So how did this idea come about? I have to walk every day, and this is even before lockdown. I kind of get really itchy, and it helps me think. I read a lot actually when I walk, both physical books or on my phone. I listen to a lot of podcasts, probably too many, or and a friend of mine suggested that when I'm walking, my body, the motor part of my brain is caught up in doing this physical stuff, and so maybe the more cerebral cortex, the imaginative part of your brain, where everything's sort of like stewing and burbling and all those things, is sort of free to play around, and you just sort of like lines come up to you, or you're thinking of stuff, and I sort of let whatever I see come in. I've just made it part of the creative process. And I was just walking maybe 15 minutes away from here through a neighborhood, and I know exactly where it was. And I was kind of coming around this corner, and I don't know what it was that prompted an image in my head, but it was a person, probably a man, sitting at a very long dining table, and he was underneath a sheet, and the sheet would be covering him all the way, and there'd be a hole for his mouth. And then I thought, would that be crazy if like a person was having to feed them through the sheet? It was just such a strange thing to me. And then the reason why I thought that was because there's a background in catering in my family. My father was a food service director for a catering company for most of my life, and before that he worked in food service. So I have a whole Twitter thread about this. I did like maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, if people want to check that out. And I have all this in mind, and I've worked since I was able to work legally with a work permit. I had a family member that owned a smorgasbord in Indiana, so I worked there and I did all kinds of stuff. And so I thought that'd be really strange. The other thing I really liked, I wanted to do though, was I really kind of am tired of the trope of things evil coming for people, and I like more stories where people willingly put themselves in front of a thing. Does that make sense? And I'm trying to think of a good example off the top of my head, and of course I can't. But I thought, wouldn't it be great if this guy, this main character, Cade, puts himself willingly, purposefully in front of the cosmic evil, or Mr. Dinosaur in this book. And so it was all about that. And of course, that's something that is talked about in the book a little bit. That's something that he reflects on, which I always like that too.
I love that character name, Mr. Dinosaur. Dinosaurs fall close to my heart. I just love them. So as soon as I saw the name Mr. Dinosaur,
They got these little dinosaur planners.
Well, and the cover too, right? You've got the skull there, on the head skull on the front, and I was just automatically intrigued about what it was about. The cover. I do want to talk about the cover, because the cover's doing a lot of heavy lifting for me, to be perfectly honest. But, hey, they say don't judge by a cover, but
I know they don't.
Everyone does.
We have to be honest that the cover really does a lot of heavy lifting. So I didn't answer your question about the spider though. So as I had my phone with me, and I was putting in my notes app this idea of guy sitting sheet, blah blah blah. And as I'm typing it, up over the top, so from back here, a spider crawled over the top of the phone, and down onto as I was typing, and I was like, what are you, like, where did this come from? Because this had been in my pocket, and then I had pulled it out. So was it in my pocket? But did it, like, I don't know where the spider came from. And I'm not bullshitting you. I'm not making this up. This is real. And it came over, and I was like, so, okay, come on, guy. I mean, I'm okay with spiders. I'm not afraid. But I took him and I put him down on the side of the road, and I was like, that's gotta be. And I say in the back and the acknowledgement, I don't believe in signs and wonders, but like that had to be some sort of a positive thing. So I was like, okay, I got to continue with this. So, and it came really quickly. Like I said, this was back in November, I think. And so, it's only been 6 months since the inception of the idea, putting it together, finding everybody to put it together. But the thing is that this had been sort of the plan to do a thing like this had been gestating, putting a novella out anyway. And I think this was just sort of the one thing. I was just ready for this experiment to happen. And so I found those people, which leads to the cover that you were talking about, which again, sorry for the that thing. But this, I worked with a guy named Ryan Dunn, who is from my hometown, actually. He was a friend of my younger brother's. He's about 5 years younger than me. And Ryan was this kid, last time I saw him, he was like dragging an amp and a guitar out of his garage, playing some grunge music with my brother. And I had actually got a hold of my brother, who is a very artistic person. And I was like, would you do the cover for my book? And he, like, my brother was like, fuck no. Not in a mean way. He's busy. He's like finishing a college degree and he's got his own shit he's doing. And so I think he was like, why don't you have somebody else who's better at it do it? And he's like, check out Ryan. Ryan does design. And by the way, his Instagram is @Dunnhog, DUNNHOG. You should follow him.
Okay, I'll go.
Yeah.
The name sounds familiar though. Has he done other artists, like other work for authors?
So here's the thing. He usually, and so when I was looking at his stuff, I was sold immediately on his stuff. If you look at it, you'll immediately see a connection with like the horror aesthetic. And he usually does like band posters for like shows, and he'll do album covers. And he has a very particular style, which is collage. So he and his partner, he was telling me, go out to libraries and do different stuff, and they take old books and they scan images and they'll use them and put them together. He's been building up a library over years for this, to put this stuff together. And he always keeps an eye out for interesting font or design. Like he found a couple things earlier this spring, like these crazy ass Christian pamphlets from the 70s. They had it was amazing design though. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, the content could be bunk if you didn't believe in that, but like the design was amazing. And so he's totally going to use that and like scan all that stuff. And when I asked him to do it, he was like, I've been wanting to get in the books. He's like, this is perfect. So like another fusion moment. Mm-hmm. So I said, he said, give me the synopsis. And I gave him the synopsis and I told him a couple things that I thought would be cool to have. And he just went with it. And this is not the first version. He did a version that was super cool, but was a little busy for me. It had too many of the things. And so I said, I also have to give a shout out to both Scott Cole, who's a horror author and does interior layout. He did the interior layout of the book. And Aaron Almaheri, who was the editor of the book. And I showed it to both of them and they went, no. The first version, they were like, this is not going to hook horror people. It doesn't read as horror. And I thought, okay, well, I don't want to shit the bed day one on this. So like, let's make sure that we do it the right way. So I had to go back hat in hand after already praising this wonderful cover to Ryan. And I said, you got to do another one. And I said, I said, I want a dinosaur skull from the side and I want a cemetery and I want, keep the font. He had the right font and for the name and the title. And I said, Cosmic Horror. Mm-hmm. And so, and that's when he came up with that. And the back too is really cool for people who get it. It's a picture of a person walking down the middle of like an aisle in a graveyard too.
Well, now I need to see that.
Yeah, it's kind of dark sometimes, but in the right light you can see it. Yeah. So
well, it's just another excuse for people to pick it up if they don't have a physical copy.
It's a good-looking book.
Copy. Mm-hmm. I mean,
it's a good-looking book. Well, I will say this. So, you can see them on the Kindle, but if you get the paper copy, so like, for example, if Ross buys it, because you can get it everywhere if you order from Amazon, they have all the different places. On the inside too, I had these drawings done by Claudia Lundahl, who is an American artist living in London. And she's fantastic. She does these are called blind contour drawings, which means she does them with her eyes closed.
What? You're kidding me. There's no way. Because those are in,
and they're at the top of every chapter. Yeah. And then she drew little forks for like the section breaks,
Mhm.
for like the
So
little wings.
Yeah, I love the
Where are
fork.
we? Oop,
there's a
there we
little
are. The
fork,
yeah.
but it doesn't come up the same on a Kindle as it does on.
No. But I will say though that it made it in, and that's all I wanted, because I wanted people to have that. I was actually reading The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones this winter, right around New Year's Day. Yeah, and whoever did the design, I've not seen the paper version of it, but in the Kindle version, it had like a mountain range and like clouds at the top of every chapter, and I was like, I want some cool shit like that at the top of my chapter. So yeah, that, and of course the font is Albertus, which is the font that John Carpenter uses in all of his title cards, which is sort of like a class, like someone like Keelan Patrick Burke with Elder Lemon he uses that extensively. I see that in a lot of stuff. But you want to have those you want to index for people like who are flipping through. I mean, there's so many books out, what are you going to do?
Oh, there is. There is. And having
That's
those
gonna set
chapter
yourself apart.
headers or different font or something like that just brings to the whole aesthetic of the book when you pick it up. And us bookworms, as much as we might love the guts of the story, the cover, the whole aesthetic, everything, chapter header art, illustrations throughout, sprayed edges, all of it just sucks us in, especially if you're a bookstagrammer like me, because it makes for really nice photos. So it's all
you're
very
not wrong.
appreciated.
I mean, I'm obsessed. I mean, you can't see how many books I have in here, and I'm not going to move my computer because I have a very tricky setup here to keep it face height. But I'm obsessed with books. I follow all these people on Instagram that are just like, they just have old torn paperbacks. I mean, just to give you, for example, like I'm obsessed. Like old me would have poo-pooed all the leisure books, right? Because I mean, just here's an example. Here's J.F. Gonzalez's Survivor, okay, and this is like, but look at that lovely creasing on that. Like, something about that makes me feel, I like knowing that someone already had this in their hands, and I like the feel and the smell of it. Yeah, there's something. It's very. I think the word is haptics. It's the touch of a thing, and so I'm obsessed with it. And so I knew if I was going to have my own book, it had to be something that I wanted to look at over and over again.
I'm glad that you mentioned scent. We have one of my best gal friends on here. She is known for book smelling. She does a book haul. She'll smell all the books right on the video, right? Somebody asked her once, does she prefer older or newer books and their scents? And she's like, newer. It's got to be newer. And I'm like, I'm older. I love the scent of older
I don't know.
books.
It depends what time, what's the season, what's the time of day, like what mood are you in?
Where it's been.
Where it's been.
Yes,
yeah,
that's very true.
My old man, both my parents have passed, but when I was moving stuff out of the house, my dad had, for whatever, he's one of the few authors besides like I'm blanking again. Who's the popular historian who wrote Band of Brothers? Stephen. Someone will give it to us here in a second. But he wrote about a book about Truman, and he wrote a book about those Easy Company. He's very powerful. My dad would buy those, and he'd buy any book about the Beatles, but he'd always buy Stephen King. And he bought Just After Midnight, I think, or is it Just Before Midnight? The collection of stories. And I remember I was buying a bunch of Stephen King to round out my collection, and I was like, well, I'm definitely going to take this because it was his, and also because it's, it was a nice hardback. But my dad smoked, so the pages just sucked all that in, and they smell like smoke. And I thought, what am I going to do with this? So I just left it downstairs, and over a couple of years, the smoke sort of has dissipated, and it sort of left a nice, weird smell. I don't like cigarette smoke smell, but it has left some sort of a weird thing, like an old book smell. That's like part of it, because you're sure that a lot of these books you're buying at these places, these independent bookstores, that they sat in a house where somebody was like chain smoking Lucky Strikes. That they were.
Yep.
So it's all part of the perfume, man.
Or if it was in like a musky basement, it might come out smelling musky. But for some reason, the way the book takes it in, and it I don't know, it smells good. I'm glad I'm not the only weird person.
You're not
out
the
there.
only person. No way.
Smelling books.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, that kind of leads into another question, but
Somebody
sorry.
answered the question about who the author was.
Oh,
Oh, who was
Stephen
it?
Ambrose.
oh, there it is.
Ambrose. That's it. Yes.
Yes.
Lisa.
So
Thank
everyone
you.
here, I'm going to pop these up because everyone here was saying, yes, the cover is great. Kelly's
Mhm.
saying
Oh,
the
yes.
cover is
Thank
great.
you.
Richard loves it. Ross loved it. I know Ross had said, first I wanted to, Hungry Bookworm. Sorry, Julie. I saw you come in.
Hi, Julie.
We didn't want to stop talking, but thank you for coming.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, thank you.
That's right. It's hard because, you don't want to interrupt. You want to be able to talk, but,
Mhm.
the comments are coming in. But there's also that, like, few second delay between the comments and what we're saying, too. The joys of live shows, right? And Ross
it.
did
This is
say
awesome.
it's so cool being able to watch at a reasonable hour. Yes, thank you for coming. And horror community is glad to have you, Kyle.
Oh, see how sweet he is.
Yes, everyone here is incredible. I also, that's how I kind of got drug into indie and small press, because the community itself, right?
And that's the thing, is I would rather. I'm not trying to poo-poo the book world, because I have an agent and I want to go on sub with another book soon. So it's like, I was just thinking, like, part of the reason why someone was like, why did you do this? It's because I was telling Richard this, who's on here with us, that I'm trying to diversify my output. You know what I mean? And part of me feels like I have no problem with doing self-release. I have no problem doing like small press. I have no problem doing big press. I have no problem doing, whatever, Xeroxing things and stapling them to light poles if I have to. It's sort of all about, why would you want to play one instrument when you could play different instruments at the same time? And I feel like, that is part of the I don't know, the ecology of books and reading and the ecosystem has changed.
Oh, absolutely.
And I feel like it's all for the better. So
there's a time and a place. Yeah. I mean, I find that the unique quality of books when it's indie or small press is where my heart lies, because I've read lots of, well-known large press things out there, and it's just, the word we always use is cookie cutter. It's cookie cutter to the thing it sits next to on the shelf. And that unique quality in books, those, bizarre, out of this world, something that's never been done, is not easy to find, because, just like movies, everything's been done. It's hard to be that original piece. But I find that indie and small press is where you can find that, because they don't necessarily have as tight stipulations on what they're going to release as they would if they went through a traditional publishing route, right?
Well, that's exactly right. I was just telling my wife this. I was like, there's sort of no way that this novella would have. It's not that it's so weird that no one would have ever published it, but there are biker gangs in here, okay? And two of them have pretty normal, banal names, but the third one, the most important one, are called the fuck offs. And there's just no way. No. I mean, I have to say it all the time. And also, people curse a lot. Like, I like cursing. I think coming up with creative cursing is fun. If you follow my Twitter feed, like, it's an investment. And so part of me was like, I have to put it in there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and absolutely.
Furthermore, I was just thinking, I was like, when I had mentioned that the next book after this, the next novella will follow that character Tanban, like, that character is seeped in just lurid and dark. I mean, I really don't even know how. I need a better word for it, because it's so the world is gross and dark, and it has to be written that way. And so I'm like, okay, like, I have to, usually I'm okay with that, but I'm like, I really have to push myself even farther to make sure that I don't slip and let in a ray of sunshine, which cue ray of sunshine actually is coming in. But, like, me and the sun were working on tandem on this. He's got me, but anyway, the indie world is, I love it because of the diversity. I love it because there's no limit to what you can do. It literally is one of the best rules I love is, if you don't like it, you're just not going to buy it. Right. And what's getting picked up and what people are digging, because if you're a part of it and you're following, you know, people like you, and you're just going through Twitter and you're a part of that community, you start seeing the same thing come up over and over again. Like Josh's book or Ross's book, right? Or, you know, or Haley Piper, or, you know, I'm trying to think of other people who so many names and things just come at you. Like, who's not going to buy Tim Meyer's new book, right? I mean, it's like I know. You're going to shove it in their face.
I'm trying to ever so gently without having everything fall off. This one?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and so, you know,
a beast,
it's like,
and I'm excited.
It's huge. Yeah. But things like that, you know, it's like, you know what's coming at you because it's been road tested by everybody, you know, and so you know which.
He says road, and all I can think about is Ross's juniper.
But you know what I mean? It's like it's like it sticks. You throw it at the wall and it sticks until you know, and that's the great thing.
You get to write what you want to write. There's no okay, but you have to add this, or you have to remove this, or this is how the cover's got to be because we know this is what's going to sell. And I understand that, you know, those large press companies, they are business, rightfully so. They want to make money, so they're going to print what they know is going to sell. But as an avid reader that's been reading for years, I go into my bookstore, you know, my big box Chapters Indigo, which is like Barnes and Noble in the States, and I walk in and I think, like, I'm already deterred, unless it's a book that I was waiting for, that I've been waiting for the sequel, or, you know, is like a author that I love of all times, and I'll pick up everything they have. I walk in and I think nothing compares to what I can pick up through indie or small press.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many times I've got into a Chapters Indigo recently. I've walked in and came out with nothing. And that used to never happen. But now I go straight to Amazon or go looking at the author's websites to see if I can get a copy right through them, or because to me, that's where my reading taste is. And I don't think that's going to ever change now. Which I'd say sadly, but it's not sadly.
Linda, is that the same for you?
That is the same for me. I find that indie has no rules and no regulations. It's just what their minder's coming up with. They put it on paper, and it's more intriguing and more gripping and more of a better experience altogether than going in, finding that book, and you're like, I don't even know if I really want to read this, but they're pushing it and they're thinking, oh yeah, this one's really good. And since somebody's recommending it because they work there, you're like, okay, well, I'll try it, because who knows what else to get, because you're limited to what we can experience until you go indie. Then there's no limits.
Yeah. It's like once you go indie, you never go back.
Well, no, you used to have, or did you have a copy of Betty up on your shelf behind you for a while?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do.
So there are exceptions, right? There are. Actually, I'm using Betty as on top of some cookbooks because Betty's thick, so it's like it's down there underneath the computer.
It's absolutely.
But I'm not ready yet. I have to finish a couple of other things before I get there. But I already know I'm going to be devastated. I've already I saw Sadie's review, and you know, I've heard people talk about it. So
it's incredible. Or even Rio Ewers. I read his Westlake Soul, and he's published by, you know, larger press companies, and he's going to be an automatic buy for me. So I always tell people that I'm like, I read like 98% indie and small press. That other 2% will be that book that will pop up through HarperCollins or something like that, right? Where I'll pick up. But I actually started off when I started doing my channel. I actually reviewed for HarperCollins Canada. I did 1 or 2 for Simon & Schuster. And I also worked for Thomas Ahlin and Son Publishing, who's right through Amazon. And I really liked it. At first, I was really pumped, but I found that they were sending the same things. It was always YA fantasy or YA contemporary. And although my reading's very vast and very broad, I got sick of the same stories over and over and over again, because it was the same genre, same type of character, same storyline. And, you know, for the life of me, I can't remember who it is that pulled me into indie, but as soon as I was in indie and small press, that was it for me. I kind of sat there, and I don't know if I'll ever go back, but there are definitely pieces that I will pick up. Or if an author that I fell in love with when they were indie or small press does go big, which there are a few of them that are having huge opportunities coming their way, I'll still follow them. Absolutely. Yeah. And I'll still sit.
I think like Keelan's next book, Mr. Stitch, I think that's going to be a bigger publication. I think if I understand what he was getting at correctly from some things he's posted. So that's a book I'm anticipating quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, again, that's the thing though, is I feel like we shouldn't have any rules. We should be able to do what we want. And I feel like there had been for a long time a stigma about it, but I think some things have just come in the right place. And then some of that's materials, some of that's the internet, some of that is just reader fatigue in what New York and London and Toronto and whoever else had been putting out. And yeah, and so I don't know. But yeah, well, anyway, I don't have any more. I reached the end of my thread on that. I don't have anything to say about it.
It is really exciting, and I'll still support those people, and I'll encourage it, and I'll cheer you guys all on as you guys make it places. It's kind of neat to connect with authors, and then just even over a short period of time to see you guys grow and flourish. And I get so excited for you guys.
Well, when I first, like for example, when I first, oh hey, so there's somebody who I don't know if the right word is honored, but like I feel like I'm really happy that you're here. Stirring the Sheets was an amazing novella. I read that. That was the first book of 2021, actually. And,
are you kidding me? When Chad comes in here, I get all flustered because I always say that Chad's
I was really stoked about that.
I always say Chad's like a celebrity that can play many different roles in book form, because he can write many different style of books, and they're all so fantastic.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I also want to say one more thing. It might not seem like it. I used to have long hair for a long time. I really do feel like the only person whose hair I actually envy in the book world is Chad's.
Yes.
He has really, really great hair. So
I was telling you,
wonderful.
I would love to have yours if you could just pass it over to have some volume.
It's awkward. It's growing out right now. So one day it will, in a few months, it'll all look like this, but some of it's very short and gross on the side. So that's why I kind of have to disguise with like putting planters and a scarf on and stuff like that.
All of you guys are showing us that. We had Daniel Barnett in a live show last night, and his hair has gotten all long, with the COVID hair, and he's got all that nice volume too. And I'm like, can you share it, please? I don't want this stick hair anymore. So I want to know, were you nervous releasing this debut horror novella?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Really?
Well, yeah. Well, you never know. I mean, you don't know. I mean, here's the thing. I think most people who release a book, like probably anybody who's in here who's a writer, knows that you're good. You're a good writer, but you don't want to try. You don't want to, Louisa, no, never.
I'm trying not to. I'm not giggling at you.
No, I know. She's just trying to get me off track. Good job, Louisa. I think most people in here feel like, okay, you're good. You're good, but you don't know how good, or you don't know if other people will recognize that, because I'm an academe, and I in order to get a gig teaching, I had to get a PhD, and then before that I got into an MFA just because I didn't know what else to do, and every step I just felt like I've really fooled everybody. I can't believe they let me in here. I can't believe they let me walk around because I don't know anything. And sometimes people will pull you aside and tell you, shut the fuck up. You belong here. You deserve to be here. Just own it. And then you feel kind of like selfish, or you feel, you don't know what's real and what's not, and you can get lost down that rabbit hole. And I feel like that's devastating, and it's really necrotic, and you don't want to do it. And you need to fight it. But to be honest with you, so I told my agent on the phone some months ago, I was like, oh, I'm going to release this like horror novella, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like silence. And he's a lovely human being. I love him. He's wonderful. He's very supportive. And he went, okay, cool. And I went, is that a problem? And he was like, no. He's like, well, we'll just see how it does. Because I think for him, he was like, it depends. If it does well, that's good for you. And if it doesn't, it might not be good for you. And part of me was like, he's right, though. I mean, and so that was my worry. I was like, oh God, what if it does poorly? What if I release it and people read it and they're like, who's this piece of shit? You know, that's one of my current students, Tara. She's great. So, but you know, one of the things you're totally worried about and self-conscious about is something like, what if it's bad? You know, and if people trash it, then you're sort of hosed. And then, you know, that's the nervous part. And then the more practical, technical side was, did everything come together here? You know, did the, you know, first time book cover artist, you know, Scott is an old hand at layout. I wasn't worried about that, but you know, did the drawings come through? You know, does it look good and all that stuff? And so I was nervous about that. And then, you know, then it's like, well, how do you promote? I don't know how to do any of this. I just watch what Gabino does.
Ooh, marketing. I love marketing.
I copy what Gabino Iglesias does. I just sort of like, I make the promo card. I like try to tweet every once in a while, not be irritating, you know.
Oh, be irritating. Be right up in people's faces at all times.
Well, that's what Erin, my editor, told me. She's like, stop it. She's like, no one's going to sell this book other than you. You know, until people, you know, if it's the type of book that people like and they go, hey, you should read this book, that's always great. But you don't know that that's going on, right? So you have to be the book's number one hand seller, number one fan. And I think there's that sort of part, like that Midwestern part of me in the Midwestern America, like I can't be too much, you know, doing anything that's about me. And then there's also the other part of me, which many people in here who know me know, which is like, I'm happy to talk for 10 hours. Like I will take the stage and I will carry on for a long time. So I have to fight both of those. But yeah, I was nervous. And, but it does seem that people like the book.
Yes,
get
Tara.
my students to buy it.
Yes,
well,
Tara.
I didn't force anybody. I said, hey, I got this thing out. If you want to buy it, you can. Don't make it seem like I was like, you all get apps if you don't buy this book. I didn't.
That's right.
I'm not an asshole.
You know, the way you approached me was just perfect. We connected because I had put out a tweet regarding author spotlights and live shows, and you didn't approach me and say, would you? You asked if you could send me a copy. I was honest, and I said, right now, the list is never ending. This is only the physical books that I have. But at the same time, planning this live show with you, looking at your book, reading the synopsis, looking at reviews, I was pulled more. I'm like, hey, well, you know what? It's only 111 pages on Kindle. I could probably crank that out in one sitting, if not two sittings. So why can't I just jump right into it? So I was like, forget it. No, we're doing a live show. It comes out on the 19th. I'm picking it up. I'm reading it.
Do it.
And as soon as I started talking about it, Linda, she said she wanted to take part in the live. So that's exactly
good.
Same thing. Let's pick up a copy. Let's crank it out in a couple of days and have it.
Yep.
And you're right. Going back to that, where you stated that novellas are perfect for horror, I find that a lot of people I watch, when they read horror, they love those little bite-sized pieces of horror goodness in a novella or even a novelette. And sometimes when they get to like the size of like Malignant Summer here, they get a little. Yeah, but at the same time, you look at it. And
he can carry through, though.
Yes, you know you love his work. You've had other pieces by him, so you get excited to dive into something like this. I'm somebody that loves a chunkster. As long as I can commit the time to sitting down and reading it, I'm there for it.
Yeah, that whole thing was, but that was just timing, Nikki, because it was like, what if I put my phone down and didn't look? You know, you miss things in the Twitter stream. You know, it goes by like so fast. That's why I have to, like, you know, people post things all the time just to make sure that you see it, because you know you can't get everything. And but that was luck. But I'm so glad that happened, because you know, any of the good things that have happened have just been by luck. It's just been fortuitous, you know.
Oh yeah.
And so, you know, I'm. Yeah. What did I see? Yes, someone said you'd rather be lucky than good or something, and I thought, oh, sure, I guess. Maybe both would be good. Maybe both would be the ideal situation. But lucky sometimes is what you need to put you over the top, and so that's definitely part of it. But yeah, I hope I answered your question about being nervous. I was very much so, very nervous.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, it's neat to see, because some people are like overly excited. Some people are really nervous, especially once, you know, you've gotten into the community and you've kind of gained your own following and you've made those connections. Sometimes people get even a little more excited than nervous, because they know that they've got that little bit of that support kind of hanging in the background there. I agree. It's all about luck. I find it absolutely amazing when I put out a tweet, something about looking for more authors or offering something that I do on my channel or something, and the thread just blows up, and I'm just like, I can't even keep up with it. I'm like, oh my goodness, the power of social media and the power of word of mouth. That is definitely the way to go. 100%.
The retweet is the new, I don't know, what is it? The retweet has all the power, I feel like.
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah.
Now, I'm going to steal a question from Linda. Sorry, Linda.
Let's go ahead. That's okay.
We were bad.
Linda, don't let her do that to you.
It's okay. I can share.
We were talking, and she had some good questions. And one of the things that she said, being a new horror reader herself, she thought that she would be really interesting to not only hear who may be somebody that inspired your writing or your writing style, but also any authors that you would maybe suggest or recommend to others to read. Maybe she can add to her list there.
Oh, wow. So, well, I mean, I would say, I mean, anybody anybody in this room watching this right now, Josh, Ross, Chad, I've already forgotten who else is here, but like, you should read their stuff. That's not just because they're here, but you should definitely read it. Mm-hmm. Let's see. I think I've been going on about this. No one has to tell you this. I have it right here. I can keep it at hand. But Samantha's book, True Crime, was.
Yes.
I mean, it's nominated for This Is Horror, and wasn't it nominated for? Was it a Bram Stoker nominated book too? I don't remember, but it should have been if it wasn't. But anyway, that book. And kudos to CV Hunt for getting it and publishing it through Grindhouse, because I think that's one of the most well curated book lists right now. I love it, and Off Limits obviously is doing really good stuff too. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so many of them, but yeah, that book really got me. And then I'm trying to think of something that just. Well, I don't know. I mean, do you read? I'm going to go to the classic. Have you read? How much Stephen King have you read, Linda?
Not a lot.
Okay.
She's
I would
read
say
some.
Okay. So what if you haven't read? Here's what I would suggest. Okay.
I'm writing it
and
down.
This is my personal opinion on this.
Okay.
I had read my share of it and then spent a long time away from Uncle Stevie, right? And then came back. and other people, that's what he calls himself, right? And some other people might have their own very strong opinions about what you should jump back into when you start reading. But when I did, there were two things that I read that made me really appreciate him all over again for who he is and who he has been and who he will be. Because I do think in a lot of ways that he is, and I'm not overstating this, the Charles Dickens of the 20th century, that he will be remembered more than a lot of other people. Because his stories have seeped so deep into our psyche. But number one was the novella The Mist, which is in, I think, the Skeleton Crew. And it's probably it's almost 100 pages, but it's, and you may have seen the movie, but and the movie was okay, but read that novella. And then what I read was Salem's Lot. I finally read Salem's Lot. And that book really scared the sweet fuck out of me. And I don't know, but I mean, it makes you appreciate what someone can do with words, though. I mean, there were literal things. I've never jumped out of my seat reading a book in my entire life, ever. And I've read lots of stuff, right? And I've watched tons of stuff. And I don't, nothing gets me jumping, but there's a part in that book where I jumped out of my seat. And I don't know how he did it. And so I have to keep going back and looking at how he did it. But those two would be definitely some things I'd look at. Let me look at my bookshelf.
Brad, I didn't even know you were in here. Yeah, he said Salem's Lot for the win. Yeah. I know Brad's been talking about Salem's Lot forever, and I'm like, it's on my list. I will get to it. I promise.
I'm looking all around here, and this is might not be technically considered horror, but I do think that where is it? Oh, it's right here. I left the screen. I'm sorry. That's like radio silence. It's like number one sin. But there's a short story. You could probably get it online. It's by Jorge Luis Borges. And I teach it and I talk about it all the time. It's called Tlan, Akbar, and Orbis Tertius. just write Tlon, and his last name is Borges, Borges, and that is it's a very short story.
Okay.
But it's absolutely terrifying. And in fact, that, getting back to the influence thing, that short story was probably one of the first things I was thinking about when I wrote The Nothing That Is, because there is, how should I say this? There are some weird things that Cade comes into contact with, both all through the book. There's a little bit of a callback. It's in the very beginning, you don't realize until the end. But those things are inspired by the story that Borges wrote. And so definitely read that. Tlan Akbar Orbis Tertius. It's a weird title, but it's totally worth seeking out.
It's a mouth twister.
Mhm.
Try saying that 5 times really quickly.
Yes, but it's also sort of like, that's what's also terrifying about it, is he was a librarian in Buenos Aires, and was blind for most of his life, and so he would, just had this amazing capability of and had been reading and was sort of soaked in all these tales and stories. But he was very good with language, and I think he understood that one of the things that can terrify people, not just through a plot, but is actually words, which is why we're so obsessed with, like, not curse words. You say curse words like fuck, shit, pest, or whatever, but like literally what they mean is that they're supposed to have a curse. That
Yes.
using them is a bad thing for you and evil. And so, things like abracadabra or whatever, or whatever those types of words are, those things have a lot of power. So if you say something in a particular way, that'll get you.
So everyone's cursed because we all have foul mouths at times.
Yeah, but I don't, that's all bogus, right? You've all read this. We've got the scientific papers that say that people who curse a lot have a higher intelligence.
It's like watching those videos where it says, if you watch this, the phone's going to ring and it's going to say 7 days. And you're going to be cursed for life.
Yeah. But that's kind of what but that, that's, I mean, look at the power that words have, or you don't have to go much further than just don't hop on Twitter. For the last 4 years, people who hated Trump didn't want to say his name. They would put little asterisks or hashtags over like the vowels or the R, or they call him Tronk or 45, or they call, they'd find ways to not have to say his name, mostly for the SEO to not pick it up, but also just because they didn't want to have it in their mouth. And I understand that. I get that. But it's also, that's in the soup that we live in. That's part of it, these words. It is good for the soul.
It lets out all that frustration, all that pent up.
No joke. I'm not even kidding. That's real.
So does writing. That's one thing I hear a lot of authors say, is that when they're writing, it's a good outlet to get something that might be that you don't want to necessarily release by mouth to somebody else, but you can release it through writing. And it makes me really interested to know more about what was going through the author's mind in that moment. But I know that that's not necessarily a question you should ask an author in the moment.
You can. I have no problem with it.
Oh,
is that what you want to know?
If you're willing to share, then yes, because that would be very interesting.
Well, writing this book was, I think, retrospectively, therapeutic in a number of ways. I had mentioned that both of my parents are dead. And my mother died in fall of 2018, and my father died just 113 days after her in February of 2019. Goodness. And my mother was expected. She had MS, and she had a type of very aggressive cancer for a long time, and so that was expected that was going to happen. But my father was unexpected. He just keeled over.
Oh my goodness.
And without getting into airing dirty laundry of the family, I was not on good terms with my father. Just in the last year and a half, for some indiscretions that were going on, and really sort of had, which up to that point he was like one of my best friends. I mean, I had a very close relationship with my father, and so it pained me very much to have the situation happen. Now, and like I told you, he was in catering for a long time. So when I had the story, obviously I know all this stuff because my dad had this job. He was an assistant manager, and then he ended up in the Rodnicki position. There's a character named Andy Rodnicki, his boss, right? And so my dad started off in the main character position and ended up in the B character position. And so I know all the stuff. And I think there was a certain amount of therapy going on there where I tried to put myself both in the position of my father and what he probably would have gone through at that time when I was very small. because he was gone all the time. He worked evenings and I wouldn't see him at night or whatever, or until the night, and then I'd have to go to bed and I wouldn't see him in the morning or whatever. And then, but then I also took it out on him in the Nichi character, which is probably a little dark for people once you read the book. But I think the writing of things is always a way for me to, and maybe not even consciously, because I wasn't, I think, exactly thinking about that when I wrote it, but I definitely see now that it's a way to chew on stuff without, you paying a lot of money and sitting on the couch, and
the new therapy.
It is. Well, I mean, that's why I am attracted to horror and have been. I think a piece should be coming out soon from Horror Oasis about growing up watching specifically something like Beetlejuice, right, which is a comedy. But I do remember very much like being, and I remember I watched it, I was way too young, like maybe 5, and like right when it came out. And, there is something very sad about Adam and Barbara dying immediately. And I always remember like being very like feeling for them, that they were so in love and it was a very sweet relationship, but now they're forced into this fucked up afterlife and they have to deal with, Beetlejuice, and they have to deal with the Dietzes who suck. And, it's like, so but the great thing about things like that is that you can literally exercise and exorcise all of these things through it. And I mean, you can do that in other genres too, but it seems like horror expurgates at a high level, if that makes sense, right? It's like high impact exercise. It does it in a short, sharp burst. And what comes out the other end is it's like worth looking at.
Oh, so. Absolutely. And horror seems to be like the largest genre that has so many subgenres within it, right? So, yeah, if you can categorize it wherever, right? Or you could have a mix of, like this is a little bit psychological horror mixed with cosmic, or you could even mix in some sci-fi or some fantasy elements into horror. Horror is never ending.
The great example of something like that is I really love, there are a couple authors that come to mind where people do this. And one of them was a sci-fi writer named Mike Resnick, who would always put a subtitle on all of his books. And it would be like a fable of utopia or a story of X, or he would tell you what the genre was. And someone who does that now is Adam Caesar. He puts that at the bottom of his book, like an arcade horror or a cult novel, or like he tells you what it is you're getting, which I really love, because it's also him showing you all the different shades of what the genre can do, which I think is fantastic. And and King does that, obviously lots of people do that. Chad does that, I think. So yeah, again, another thing where I have no good way to end what I was saying, so I just stopped.
I picked up what you're putting down. It's
good. Okay. Yeah.
And sometimes, as a reader, because there's so many subgenres, I'll go on to Goodreads or Amazon and I'll start scrolling through down to the bottom, right, to see where has this been deemed, when this book's been released out, where is the author thinking it lies. But I've had some authors say, you know what, I don't even know how to suggest my book to you, or where it lies, or what it's about, or what category you would put it in, right? When you read it, you can decide for me, right? And I'm thinking,
well, that's part of it. I prefer that. I said cosmic horror because to me there is a linchpin to cosmic horror, which is Doom, in the sense that Doom has to be a big part. Doom and dread, and it doesn't necessarily have to be outer space, although that's fun. But Doom and dread to some degree, and that's maybe because my wife is out on the patio making faces at me.
Hi.
She's trying to distract me. The Doom, and then back to Doom and Dread, and I felt like that was really the key part of it. Now, if there's anything else a part of it, wherever this unseen evil comes from it, whether it's evil or just it has to be unknown. It doesn't necessarily have to be evil. I sometimes say that, and that could just be a substitute for something that's incredibly and interminably unknowable, right?
Oh, absolutely.
The idea that That was so well timed.
That was, yeah, that's my youngest.
That was perfect. Thank you. That, and that's the reaction you're supposed to have to the interminable unknown. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And so and if someone finds something else in the book, and they're like, because like Goodreads, I saw someone shelved it on Lovecraftian, and
yeah, I saw that too.
And I think that's interesting. I'm okay with that. I mean, there's no like Cthulhu-like thing in the book, really. No, but like for example, okay, there was a great blurb that Keelan gave me, which was the snippet is it's like Anthony Bourdain riffing on Lovecraft, which is like, I'm gonna put that on my tombstone. But like, he was trying to index things, right? You index the culinary part with Bourdain, you index the horror with Lovecraft, and because the blurb has to do a lot of heavy lifting, and so I was like, I will take all that, because what you're trying to tell people is that what you're getting into is something like this, but you're not going to get all the individual parts of it, right? I don't have some sort of a solitary academic doing a bunch of dusty stuff, and there's no like, it's not a harbor town in New England, and that kind of stuff. So
no, absolutely.
And marriage and doom.
Yeah.
No, not sometimes, not all the time. It depends. Depends on what type of day it is and what season and how much have you had your coffee in the morning.
Yeah, that's right. Coffee is a big thing. That absolutely. There are.
Yeah.
I mean, I did pull out other elements in your novella other than just cosmic. There
Tell
was
me.
a good mix. I did see there. To me, I did get a bit of a peek of psychological, right? And I'm trying to be very careful what I say, because I don't want to give anything away with the characters or the things that were happening in the book. So I'm going to try to like talk in code. or be very vague. But I did see things of psychological, and even when I messaged you and I was like, okay, this is where I'm at. This is the stuff that's going on. I really think something's happening with this character, right?
You said we can say this.
Okay.
Nichi saw halfway through the book that Cade, the main character, she's like, I think he's crazy, or maybe he's going insane.
Yeah.
Which is a trope of cosmic horror, can be, right? That drives you crazy. And I can say, and this doesn't ruin anything, he's not. He wasn't.
Okay. See, that
totally
answers.
He's sane, which I hope actually should make the book even more fucked up.
It does. It really, really does. Because as Linda and I were talking about it, we were kind of thinking, okay, well, this is happening. But how does that get there? And how does this get here? What happened to that part? What happened to this person? And I said, he's got to be losing his mind. Like, who does these things, and how do these things happen if he's not losing his mind? But then again, we kept going back on, I keep wanting to say cosmetic ever since that slipped out of my mouth on the phone with Linda, to the cosmic horror side, right? So cosmetic horror. Yeah, good luck trying to write that. I don't know if anyone's gonna read that. But
I'll make it work. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, figure it out and then let me know, because I'd like to read that. But it does make it that more like I'm gonna look at the camera. This is going to mess with your mind. I'm still trying. Everyone stare at the camera. Linda, get in there.
There's a better word.
This is
than
Go
mess
for
with your mind.
I was just trying to be careful because the kids are really close, but this is going to fuck with your mind.
Linda could say it. Linda, do you have kids in the room? She can do it.
No, there's no kids around here. Yeah,
okay,
it really does.
But it really does. And then, trying to, and I always say, and I say this probably every live that I do, when you go to the movie theater with a friend, you have somebody to chat with. When you read a book by yourself, you don't have anyone to chat with. If you go to a movie by yourself, you don't have anyone to chat with afterwards. This is something that if you can coerce a friend to come in and to read it with you, please do so. I don't know what's going in here. Yeah, coerce. It's probably not the West. I'm just going to, sorry. I don't know who this Linda Birdhouse is, but we'll just get rid of this George Floyd.
Yes.
Yeah, but if you can get your friend to read it with you, or both go pick up a copy or do a buddy read, or this would be fantastic. And this would make incredible discussion for a book club. If you could
do it. People should buy this for book club.
Kelly,
this is really good. Thank you. Lots of people, if you're watching, buy lots of copies for book club, and then have me come and talk about it. I will totally do it.
Kelly,
and talk to
me.
I
will dress in a dinosaur outfit, and I'll do all the bits. I'll do it. I swear to God, anything you want me to do. This is me being desperate.
If Kelly's still in here, Kelly, if you're not, I'm gonna come and message you after. We have a From Hell book club where we're slowly kind of going through all the paperbacks from Hell books. This would be a fantastic
that's such
one.
a good idea.
Because this is one that you need to have other people's thoughts, and this is also one that I would have to go back and reread because I'm
Linda,
sure.
Yes.
Add this book. She just said this. This reminded me. The House Next Door. The Ann Siddons.
Yes.
That's you have to read that. That. Yeah. Wow. And I say that because Grady recommended it as one of the better haunted house books. And I haven't read all of them, obviously. I've only read a fraction, but that book is fantastic. And it's really funny because she's somebody who doesn't really write horror. She doesn't write that kind of stuff. Most of her books you see on the shelf are sort of like,
yeah.
I don't even know what do you even call it. They're not romance. They're just sort of like
contemporary.
Well, I don't even know what you even call it. Doesn't even matter. Point is you should read that book because it's really fucking good. I cut you off, Nikki. Sorry, what were you saying?
No, that's okay. That's actually our book pick for the month of April. But unfortunately, I can't get my hands on a copy in time to get it done before. Good gracious, these comments, it always has to be somebody that comes in and spams with some type of dirty sex links. Click on this. Blah, 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 blah. It's okay, Kyle. I'm not popping them up for you. I hope you can't see them.
Oh no, I can't. Although now I kind of want to because I'm curious. Like,
you don't want to
boner pills and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, it says I pay homeless kids for rough sex. Well, we're just gonna block them because that's a little too far. But yeah, no, that's one that we have on our list. But I can't get. Oh, good gracious. It's the same person too that keeps coming in.
Yeah.
And I can't, no matter how many times I block them, it's just going to keep going. That means that it's almost time that we should wrap it up so that you don't have your whole entire show just taken over by these crazy spammers. But yeah, that's the book that we have picked for this month. But I was hoping that I'd be able to get it on audiobook to be able to squeeze it in between all of my review reads and stuff. And even if I ordered a copy, it wouldn't get here in time for me to be able to try to sneak it in before the end of April. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, Kelly, because this is one that I was very excited to read. So, but I will have to make note of that to Kelly and say, listen, get everyone to read these. And then can we have a big discussion about it? Because this is one, and I don't have a copy of it, but the Nothing That Is one I'm going to have to go back and reread at some point. Because I'm sure there's parts of it, because it's so mind-bending and twisting, that I've missed. Even talking with Linda, there was something she'd say, and I'm like, wait, what part was that in? How did I miss that? And same goes with
Linda. What was it? Now I want to know. Now
there was a few of them.
Yeah, I can't remember. Oh my goodness.
There was a. We talked about a lot of different things.
Oh, what was the girl? What's that girl's name? That was Cade's obsession.
Tina.
Oh, that was just a little out of his reach. Just a little. Yeah.
There was how she left the
dinner.
The dinner.
It's like, what am I saying?
Yeah.
And how she left and how he kind of said, yeah, you can't do this. And she says, well, how am I supposed to do my job? And he said, well, I just guess you're just going to have to basically do nothing and get paid for it. It's a good amount of money, right? And money drives people. But then I didn't realize that she had left. And I'm like, wait a second. I thought that she says, okay, well, now I.
Well, I can say this is not a problem. He's asked to dismiss her by Mr. Dinosaur. He says, I want you, really. And this gets back to my thing where he put himself in the way of it. And there's a part later where I don't feel like we're giving anything away when I say this, where he realizes later on that, a lot of phones rang that morning, and he was the only dickhead who answered or called back. Right. And so he's the one, it's on him. It's his fault. That's the thing, is like, and stories like that where you did it. I mean, a really great example of this, and maybe it's not Cosmic Core, but I don't really give a shit, but this is what I'm talking about, was Hereditary, the movie Hereditary. And the reason why, I don't know if you've seen Hereditary, but the reason why I liked that movie was because the whole time you're watching it, you think, in your back of your mind, there's a way that these people are going to find a way out, or something's going to happen. And what you really realize is that everybody's been doomed even before the story even started, before the movie even was even made, before, before these characters were even born in the universe of that movie, they were screwed.
Before that phone rang.
Literally. No, I mean, but what the phone ringing in the movie, whatever that represents, it was always going to be that way. And again, it's always like, once you realize that retrospectively, the compelling part is finding out, well, what's going on between A and B? Like, how are they dealing with the situation? That's what becomes compelling. And in the book, he dismisses Tina. He says, okay, I'll just pay you and you can stay in here. And she's like, fuck you. Like, I'm not going to be treated like shit, And she also tries to say, you should leave too. You don't need to be treated like this, because he's being asked to do certain things that I won't reveal. And he says, nope,
no,
there you go.
Don't want to put that one up. Good gracious. Sorry, I was trying to block it.
I don't even know what even that means. But but point being is that he sends her away, and it's, you can see it as either he does it because he has the will to do it and she has the will to leave, or it was something that was always going to happen all along, right? And I like stories where it's like, if you read it one way, it becomes one particular story, and if you read it another way, it becomes a whole other story, And
so now that you're saying that, it's bringing back memories. But I was like, wait, didn't she say something about, like, if you pay me more, and that whole money ordeal? But I was like, but I didn't realize that she left. I thought she was still there. And then all of a sudden it was just him one-on-one with the dinosaur, right? And Linda's like, no, don't you remember this and that? And then there was parts of it too where I was saying something and she was like, oh yeah. Oh. So this is definitely, being a novella, it's really hard to pack in so much mind-bending, twisting, messed up stuff, and to have people really think. So kudos to you.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Linda. I appreciate it. That means a lot.
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, you can read a 500-page book and, still be sitting there wondering, okay, well, where's the evil in this story? Is it something, or is it something?
It's the page length.
Yeah,
that's the evil.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Pack it all in. No, I like those chunksters. I said that before.
I do too. I got plenty around.
If you can sit down and you can commit yourself to a long series or a long book, I'm down for it. If you cannot commit yourself to that time, these short little goody bite-sized, cookie-size goodnesses are definitely where it's at. Somebody definitely likes you, Kyle, because ever since one person came in starting spam weird shit, now there's there's multiple. I'm so glad you can't see it.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
That's too funny. Oh my goodness, isn't it? And it's getting worse and worse and worse every time you have some type of live show. There always has to be one, but in this case, it was many more than just one.
Gross. Gross. I just want to talk to people. I just want to communicate.
We just want to promote Kyle and talk to Kyle and get to know more about him and his work.
But it's definitely a book that you need to read with a friend or a group.
I love that. I love that. I want people to do that. And if you end up doing that with Kelly, Nikki, and if you want to, then we can talk about all of it. You don't feel like we have to keep stuff back, like for spoilers.
Yes.
Let me know, because I love talking about stuff like this. And it doesn't just have to be about me or I'm happy to talk about other stuff, like other people's books and cosmic horror broadly, and that 80s horror, the whole 80s horror thing. It's the whole thing.
We'll have to do another live show that's like spoiler heavy.
Spoiler heavy. You just tell them right away from the beginning.
That's right. Don't come in. You don't want spoilers. Get out. I tried to keep these, different interviews, that sort of thing, a little more on the, not maybe a little spoilery, but I mean, if the book was out in the 80s, then, it's kind of like you've had how many years to read it?
Yeah.
So we're going into spoilers. But this one was just released on the 19th. So I don't
just a week.
Want...
It's a little baby book. It's only a week old.
It's brand new. It's just a newborn. So I don't want to go too much into that and ruin it for people.
Yeah.
It's still growing. It's
still growing. Doesn't have teeth.
Well, before we head off, because we have surpassed that hour mark, and now everyone that was in the comments is being spammed out by this lovely spam. I would like to know if there's. You did mention that you're working on kind of like a sequel to the story written from a different character's perspective. Is there anything else that you're working on too?
So I mean, I have these other novels that I've written. I'm sort of like so last year, right before COVID, it was like middle of February, right before things got really heavy. My agent subbed a book out to editors, and it just was under the tidal wave of everything that happened there. COVID like sort of took over everything. People were either not getting back, or it was just sort of things were in a tizzy, and it was just not a good time, I don't think. And that was a speculative horror novel too, which I'm hoping will one day either be bought by somebody, and if it doesn't, I've already got in my mind to send it out to a small press, or maybe I'll do a self-published thing like this too. I think it would work for that. And then I have a book that I just wrote, finished, and I'm sort of waiting on this. It's about it's told from the point of view of Horatio after Hamlet dies. He is haunted by the ghost of Hamlet and is forced in Hamlet to shithead and curses at him and treats him like crap. And he demands, at the end of the play, Hamlet says, "Tell my tale to the unsatisfied," basically. And so Horatio takes it literally. And so he goes to London to try to find a way to tell his story to the biggest audience. And so it's kind of that takes place in Elizabethan England, but it's super dirty. And there's ghosts, and there's pirates, and there's all kinds of shit. So there's that. But I've got stories. I had actually a couple. This has been a great year for me story-wise. I was in a drought for a decade, to be honest with you. I just had a story called Smudge the Head come out in a Night Terrors collection that just came out in like a month ago, volume 12, I think. And then Novel Noctual published a story I've been trying to get published for like 6 years. A very language-heavy, dark fantasy story called The Clutterfold, which is about people who have, it takes place in a world where people have paper shadows. There are people who have real shadows, and people who have no shadows at all, and the people in between who have shadows made out of paper. And they can fold them and do things with them and build weapons out of them, or they can live in them. And
where do you come up with these things? I want to just crawl into your brain and like.
They asked me that. There's a little interview with me on the side, like about the process for that, and I explain that there, so you can read that. That'll tell you where I got the idea.
I'm gonna have to do that because I tell you, I just want to like crawl in there and gain all of your ideas.
It's gloopy. It's not good. You don't want to be there. And then the latest thing that happened was I had a story accepted by Coffin Bell, which is a dark fiction horror online mag, and that story is called Homebody, and it's going to be coming out I think first week in May. So and I'm not going to. That's more science. That's dark, almost like dark science fiction slash.
Oh, I like.
It's weird, yeah.
I like that too. It takes place
in an alternative present, so be on the lookout for that. Coffin Bell. Brad asked, I'm curious about the Bourdain blurb. How does that relate to the book? So I think what Keelan was thinking there was the fact that the book is so centered around food, about catering, and about dining. And there's there's a scene that takes place in the storeroom full of dry goods, and there's a scene that takes place in the kitchen, and there's a scene that takes place at a dinner, and then there's always food. People are eating or drinking, and so and I think the voice of it was, if you've ever read Kitchen Confidential, which was a really important book for me when I was like a senior in high school, and went on, I was thinking about going to the CIA, the Culinary Institute of America, but I decided not to. He describes that as like, I think the subtitle of the book is like the underbelly of the professional kitchen or something like that. And so he was just showing people how like, yeah, all these fancy restaurants that you go to, you think they're this way, they're actually like this. It's a lot more messy and dirty and fucked up than you think it is. And he sort of opened that world up to people in a really entertaining way, in a really compelling first-person voice too. And I think because Nothing That Is told in I hope, a compelling first-person voice in the world of food service, I think that's where that connection comes in. And I'd never told anybody to say anything, and Keelan came up with that on his own. Who is, by the way, a really good cook. I don't know, he has his own like Instagram for baking and cooking. Everything. And Keelan's very handy in the kitchen. And so I think he was perhaps very happy to, Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And if that's the one thing anybody takes away, it's always you shouldn't eat fish on Mondays in a restaurant. But see, the fucked up thing was I worked at a really fancy restaurant in St. Louis for a while, and they just weren't open on Mondays. And so you know, like, where the fuck does that fish go? Right? That old fish. Is it Tuesdays? What do you do? Is it Sundays? They're fucking with you. I don't know. You don't know what to do. So, and I had to work in food service even up into just a few years ago, finishing my PhD in Pittsburgh, to keep, you know, we needed money. Stipends for grad students is small. My wife had a office job that didn't pay her very much. And so I had to get another job. I worked at Phipps Conservatory in Pittsburgh at the juice bar. I was making fresh juice drinks. I'm like 35. I forget how old I was, 34. and I'm like supposed to be, in grad school getting this PhD, and here I was, slinging drinks on the weekends for wearing like all black and getting yelled at by some guy who's my age. You do. And we were going to have a kid, and you got to do what you got to do. But the point was like, that's where people go, to do those things. It's food service. And that's why, the dedication in the book was so important to me, for all my brothers and sisters, comrades, and folks who have worked, are working, or will work in the food service industrial complex, and to anyone who's ever had an asshole boss. They're kind of interlinked. But,
I understand that.
Thank you, Brad. I hope if you buy the book, Brad, that you like it. Let me know what you think. And I always tell people if they don't like it, they should just burn sage to get all the bad bugs out. Yeah.
Brad is also really, he's also into cooking, and he also posts like a photo every now and then, like his stories on Instagram and stuff. And between him and Keelan, I'm just like, you guys, even when I'm not hungry or when I've just eaten dinner myself, you guys are making me hungry all over again.
Bookstagrammers are really good about posting their books next to like cups of tea and coffee, or like Erin, actually, my editor, she always posts pictures of like these amazing meals that her daughter makes, and I'm like so jealous because my kids are like 2 and 5, they can't cook. So
I didn't know her daughter made them. I know when I first connected with her, I was like, I love your page. I love all the food shots you have on here. And I didn't realize it was.
Maybe she does make quite a bit of it, but she always says this, like, "Oh, my daughter made this amazing, salmon noodle bowl," and I'm like, "Oh my god, I want to eat that." And she just lives like right up the road, literally. I mean, like about an hour away. And Keelan lives an hour the other way, so it's like I need to get them together. And we need to have some kind of a dinner or something. I don't know.
I'm coming over for dinner. I kept telling her that I'm coming over for dinner whenever she'd put up a post, right? But you could literally do that. I'm jealous.
Yeah.
That's too funny. And I think it kind of goes hand in hand. People that work in food service. Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard anyone that's worked in that industry that hasn't had an asshole boss before. I think that kind of
have you heard of the Peter principle? Have you heard of this?
No.
It's the idea that you will always be promoted to a level above which you have competence, right? So the people are always just one level above where they really need to be, and so they sort of carry that bullshittery around with them. Like, oh, I know what I'm doing. Well, you didn't do it
Brad.
that way. Yeah, Aaron, exactly. That's right, Brad. Yep. Yeah.
As soon as I saw her name at the back of your book, in your acknowledgments, I was like, oh, I know Aaron.
If it wasn't for Aaron, I don't know where I'd be, to be honest with you. She's helped me so much. Books are made by groups of people, right? And it started with Steve. Aaron is a part of that. Scott Cole is a part of that. Ryan Dunn, the cover artist, and Claudia Lundahl, the interior illustrator, is all part of it. I mean, I did the words, but everybody else put everything else together. And if I knew the people who were working the machine in the factory that put the actual thing together, I put their names in too. But, that's, it's a thing. And then you read the book, and so it's all comes together. I'm being really like woo right now. I'm sorry, but that's how it is.
It's okay.
So.
I think I always say it takes a village, just like raising a child. Releasing a book takes a village, right? You need to have everybody.
You said that it's just a baby book.
Mm-hmm. It's just a baby book, so we need to grow it. Everyone,
Brad, you're right.
Gather around.
Gather round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's build this baby up. Let's grow this baby. Yeah. Well, perfect. Well, I thank you so much, Kyle. I'm going to, for everyone that came to hang out with us, thank you so much. I will shut it down now because we've gotten away with not having spammer comments for a little while, but I have a feeling they're going to come back.
Thank you, everybody who came and who listened. And if you have questions about the book that you can't ask here, tweet at me. I'm at Bleak Housing. And and
I'll put
my
all
email's
the-
on my page. Yeah, get a hold
All
of me.
of them will be in the description.
Let's have fun together. Let's talk craziness.
Yeah,
Thank you,
absolutely.
Linda.
And
Thank you, Nikki. I love
for
this.
anyone
Wonderful.
coming and watching this later on, yeah, all the description, everything that you can find for Kyle that I know of will be down in the description, so you can go and find him, go and pick up a copy of his newly released novella. Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. Oh, Carla is still here. I didn't know that Carla was still here. All these people that have been hanging around, and I thought maybe they disappeared.
No, they're lurking. They're lurking in the shadows. It's a horror podcast.
That's what I do. I'm always, sitting there. I'm, squatting around. I'm lurking. I always tell people that I'm low key stalking around somewhere. I'm always around.
Yeah.
Anyhow, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us, getting
Thank
to know
you.
more
I
about
appreciate
you. Talking to you has actually answered quite a bit of my questions that I was telling you that I
If you have more,
I'll bug
shoot me
you.
a DM. I'm happy to let you know.
Oh, I'll bug you. Absolutely.
Okay.
No, perfect. Thank you so much for coming on. It
Thank
was
you.
a pleasure getting to have you on here.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you for everyone that came to come and chat with us, anyone that might be watching this after the fact. And yeah, that's it for now.
Have a good day,
Thanks,
everybody.
guys. Bye.
Take care.